What is up, everybody? It's Olson and Treese with Delta Consulting here with another video for you guys. Today, I wanted to do a little bit shorter one, and we're going to talk about whether or not you should break down your estimates when you're sending a proposal to clients. How are you doing today, Treese?
Good, brother. How are you?
Not doing too bad. So, this is a common topic that we hear a lot about. You probably see it in Facebook groups, you see it in industry groups, and all over the place. And it's people complaining about they send a customer an estimate, they say it's going to be $5,000 for XYZ, and the customer says, "Oh, can you break down your labor, materials, disposal fees, et cetera, et cetera?" So, what are your big picture thoughts on this? How
Sure.
detailed should your estimates
Sure. So I put as little detail as possible into the pricing side. So as much as possible, I do a lump sum. The only time I will break something out is if we are giving them options. So we go back to decks a lot, and that's the easiest way. So what I would do is I would have a price with one line item describing the work to be completed that says this is the price to do a treated deck. And then if they say, well, I might want to go to two different lines of composite decking. Okay. Here's what it is to go to TimberTech Terrain Plus. Here's what it is to go to TimberTech Heritage. Okay, well, we want a couple different options for railing. Cool. Well, the stock one includes just treated railing. Here's a line item for if you upgrade to black aluminum, express rail. Here's a line item if you go to post-tension cable railing. And we will make those checkboxes, but they're buying a finished product. So it will say, let's just say for this number, it's $15,000 to do the deck. It's an additional $9,000 if you want to go to composite, or an extra $14,000 if you want to go to the higher line of composite. It's an extra $6,000 to go to aluminum railing. It's an extra whatever to go to cable railing. And we will only break it down that far. Because what I will explain to clients is one, I think it's really important that you have the mindset with clients that that's what they've been told to ask for. They're told to ask for materials and labor and profit, because that's what people say you should do. Well, the reality is we're fighting that battle because you don't go into a restaurant and ask them to break down labor versus cost of food versus back end dishwasher.
What was your cost of goods sold on this steak that I made?
Exactly. You don't ask that to your doctor. You don't ask that to almost any purchase you make. You don't ask that when you buy a random $10 thing at the store. And so it's not really realistic for us to run a successful business that way. There are people that do it and they own their own jobs. I just choose not to participate.
Yeah, the reality is people know that an iPhone doesn't cost $1,200, yet billions of people still buy it.
Yeah. And so what I was trying to get at there is it's important to have the mindset that most of these people are just ignorant of the true way that things should be purchased. They are uneducated. And so most of the time I try and go in with the mindset that I am educating someone, because it's super common for people to say, well, can you break that down? And what I tell them is I just have a simple conversation and say, can I? Sure. But honestly, I almost never get the job if I do that. And so it's something I choose not to do anymore. That's a deal breaker. I completely understand. Happy to, tell you what I've heard about other people positively. But that's just not a process that goes for us. And they say, well, what if you use less materials than you expected to? Cool. Completely understand. What if I use more? Are you going to write me a check for the difference because I missed it? Well, no. Exactly. I'm taking all the risk here. I'm saying that this is what it needs to be in order for me to profitably make money and operate my business. And so we just walk around it. We don't really ever engage with it.
So what is your response to the people who, when they hear that, I'm 100% on the same page. What's your response to the people that say, well, it builds trust with clients, or it's more transparent, or X, Y, Z, that are kind of on the other side of that, where they think the customer should know everything and know all the details and know your margins? Like, what's your response to those types?
Ready for a fun one?
Yeah.
I agree with you in a utopian society. I would love to tell people, hey, we make 40% on this. That's what we've determined to cover our marketing, to cover our commission for salespeople, to cover our overhead, to cover the insurance, to make sure that you're protected. That's what it takes. I would love to have that conversation. But the reality is that 99% of the general population would never be okay with that. Just like back to your iPhone, if they went and found out that an iPhone really costs about $500 to make, or 400 or 600 or whatever,
try $70. That's what an
sure,
iPhone costs.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just the point.
It's like an
It's
800% markup.
Yeah, 100% doesn't matter. Yeah. If they knew that, they would wonder, especially when Apple has the most cash on hand of any business. Like, people are just uneducated in how this stuff works. And if we all lived on a barter system, then cool, we wouldn't have to. But that's just not the reality. So the reality is that people aren't educated enough to understand all of the nuances, and I don't have time to give them an MBA.
Well, and the reality is one of the things that's always bothered me is everybody knows that a beer costs $2 in the grocery store and $12 at a nice bar. Everybody knows you can buy a steak for $10 or you can go to a restaurant and pay $6. But nobody has a problem with it. Same thing with the iPhone. I think there's probably a lot of people that know that an iPhone costs nowhere near what Apple charges, so they still want their iPhone. And why is that different than when I say a debt costs this much, and you know that I'm making a profit? A business has to make a profit. We have to be able to pay you.
So I actually think you said two separate scenarios there. And let me explain. The difference I see in that steak or that beer is convenience. Mm-hmm. You can't buy the parts for an iPhone and put it together. Realistically, most people couldn't do it. And proprietary software and I mean, they make some phones, like they make the one phone something where you can buy individual parts and put it together. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't sell very well because people pay for convenience.
Yeah. And it doesn't do it on iPhone.
Sure. So I think in the sense, in that, like the iPhone argument or a finished product, most people don't have the manufacturing capability to actually build it. So
true.
You can either buy the top of the line thing, the iPhone, or you can buy, the iPhone Air or a couple generations old iPhone or into Android. And then there's, Androids from $50 to, I'm sure, the same price as what iPhones are. And there's a huge gamut of products that you can pick. But there's a reason that iPhone sells as well as it does. Because people pay for experience and they pay for convenience. With the other options, that's where I would make the same thing. Because realistically, I can teach anyone to build a deck. Mm-hmm. It might take me a little bit longer to teach them to build the stairs. Just figuring out the math to cut stringers is a little bit challenging. But how you build a deck is not difficult. I should say it's not complicated. Mm-hmm. But you take that same person that wants to do that and you hand them a completely soaked, treated 20-foot 2x12 and say, throw this over your shoulder and go hang it up without any help, and then put joist hangers on it and do all that other stuff. And they pick it up and it's 120 pounds and 20 foot long, which makes it wildly unwieldy. And you understand why you're paying for it.
Yep. Well, and I think there's another layer to that too, which is that you can go to the store and buy a steak and cook it for yourself and throw it on a plate. But it doesn't come with the experience. It doesn't come with the convenience. It doesn't come with the quality of a chef that knows how to cook a steak correctly. And obviously, it's a little bit easier to learn how to cook a steak correctly than it is to build a deck. But the reality is there's a lot of people out there that have no idea how a hammer works, let alone how to build a deck. And they would rather pay for the convenience than learn. And those same people probably hire somebody to clean their house and hire somebody to mow their lawn and hire somebody to cook for them, things like that in a lot of cases. And like you said, it's convenience, it's experience, and it's the ability to have it done when they want it right now or whenever the time.
Yeah, I think especially with anything physical labor involved, also, like, and I'll probably get roasted for this, but we're lazy as a society.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's true. You can get
We
roasted
are.
all you want. I agree with you.
You know, most people don't do any physical activity. Statistics say, and I'm going to butcher the actual percentage, but something like 85% of people never jump after they turn 30 again.
Mhm.
Never jump, let alone lift a weight, run, do any kind of physical activity that's difficult.
Yeah, well, it's just crazy. I mean, you hear statistics like that, or like the fact that if you can bench 2 plates, you're in the top, whatever it is, 5% of the population. It's just it's crazy. We as a society are not strong. We're not fast. We're not fit. We're not high performing anymore. You're in the minority if you're doing those things, and that doesn't mean people don't have money or they're not successful at something. But there's a large percentage of the population that makes great money, but they have zero desire to swing a hammer or mow their own lawn or work on their house or put a roof on. And if you're a contractor, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Which there's lots of people that might be really, really good at computer software design and engineering, but have no desire or ability to build a deck or pour concrete or put a roof on it.
Sure. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
You just have to make the decision of whether you want to do the work or pay for the convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Because I promise you, if we ever get to the point where this coaching thing needs its own app, I'm not building it.
Heck no.
And I love you dearly, but you're probably not building it either.
Hell no.
Not unless you get rid of 60% of your responsibilities.
Yeah, not anytime soon. And even if I did, I know just enough about coding and engineering to know that I do not have the desire to learn on that level.
Yeah.
So
we want a high-end product, so we're going to pay a professional to give us a high-end product.
Exactly. There are other things I'd rather put my time to than sitting in front of Claude for a month trying to figure out how to even get started, let alone do it myself.
Right.
So, well, obviously, it is a little bit off topic, but it does 100% tie into the original question, which is how much should you break down estimates? And I think we've answered that question, and we've kind of addressed the different concerns.
As little as possible.
Yeah, as little as possible. And at the end of the day, we are fighting it up.
Oh, I do have one other thing. I do have one other thing I want to say. You talked about earlier where the naysayers would say, well, this is how you build trust. If you are waiting until you are at the table with a client giving them a proposal to build trust, you have already failed your job.
100%. I agree with you.
That is what social media is for. That is what Facebook posts are for. That is what your branding is for. That is what your Google reviews are for. That is what everything leading up to your first initial contact with is for. If they call you and they don't have trust in you, then you are already a step behind someone that they do trust.
Yep, 100%. Well, I think we can wrap up. For those of you listening, if this is something you have more questions about, or you have any specific questions about this, drop it down below. Or you can jump into our Facebook page and ask this question, because it's something that we see all the time, people asking about and talking about. Drop your thoughts down below. If you're watching on YouTube, watching on Facebook, wherever you're at, drop your comments, drop your thoughts about how you've addressed this and how it's worked for you. How far do you break down estimates? Have you had better success with more or less detail? And give us your thoughts down below. If you're not in our free Facebook group, come find us. The link will be below the video. And we'd love to chat with you, love to talk to you. And if you're looking for help on figuring out your business and figuring out some of the problems that you have, or you're looking to grow and scale, we're always available to chat. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one.